So, as mentioned before, 6 years ago, I was crazy enough to come up with an idea. I wanted a podcast. 6 years later, still relevant and apparently still offending people. Welcome to night 2 of Golden Week podcast on the Mike Cook Guys podcast. But before I say anything, I just want to say to a certain person, yeah, I'm not even going to repeat the code name because when she first heard it, she was like, oh, I'm going to kill him. Not going to do the voice because she had to trust me. I got mine handed to me and then some by her. But you know what? Once we talked about it, once we grew an understanding, I get it. Maybe I was a little bit too harsh of a comment that I mentioned last night about the women and the leggings and all that. You also got to look at it from this point of view. As a man who has been scorned as much as I have, you can't help but have that mindset that it's me versus the world in terms of the opposite sex. But to this woman, after she mentioned, a story from her past, and once she mentioned it, I got it. Mind you, she was fired up like Minoru Suzuki in a slapping fest, but I got it once, she spoke her piece. So to you out there, I just want to say I'm sorry if in any way you felt like you were targeted and offended. It's, and not just you, women in general who are in that similar situation, who's been there and done that. I get it once I hear it from one person's point of view that's really close to you on a very close level of, I'm still trying to boo you up and I ain't giving up either type deal. So with that being said, I'm sorry. And as long as we continue learning each other, it won't happen again. You got my word. Plus, you had to get on me about, things I pointed out that she took it as if I was picking on her when really it really wasn't. Not even close. It's just some things, that's how it caught my mind. And, things happen. I'm a very reactive person too. I react at things as well too. And I get offended easily. But as I'm getting older, it's kind of like slow down just a bit. And like I said, I get it. You won. You win the first fall, as you say. I mean, it was at the point she went in like Kevin Owens mode and was like, fight me. This is how I feel. I don't care what you say. Fight me. And I don't know why I got even more attracted by it. It's kind of strange, isn't it? It's strange how a woman's mood can be. I don't know. It's interesting. It's quite interesting. But that's why I said, she's that sassy Southern belle. Or at least, she proved it to me. As long as she don't give me the woman's right like Lacey Evans, I'm cool. But, we're cool. I still care about you. And, like I said, for any of you women out there who's been in that situation, if you're wearing it just to be comfortable and not to get some dude's attention, that post wasn't about you last night. But the ones that do it just to get attention, they want to play victim afterwards. Yeah, I'm pointing y'all out. Now that I will stay on my word about, because you do have assholes like that. But for those who don't deserve it, sorry. Now that I got that out the way, tonight's episode features another landmark that's happened in my life. You know, it was about a few years ago. I want to say about 3.5, 4 years ago. I met a good friend of mine, and you know, we got to know each other, and we ended up becoming fast friends, like really fast, and even up to moving up here. You know, I was very, very scared because moving up to Virginia was a new experience. And aside from my family and my best friend, this guy has also been my best friend as well, like a brother, a distant brother because we've never met in person. We've only met on Facebook. We chat all the time and all those things. And he is probably the most all Japan fucking biased Jones I ever met. And for those who know what I mean, I'm talking about All Japan Pro Wrestling. Like this dude, if you like cut this dude right now, he bleeds Royal Road, okay? Like to the core. And that's cool because one of the references that was used when I moved up here was from Pro Wrestling Noah, which, you know, we always say Southern Navigation as an inside joke. So he jokingly, along with me, created Pro Wrestling Rod, where pretty much all this is segments of us talking shop about wrestling and joking about it and using so many references. So, because he's my buddy and he requested this, I'm going to start blasting in the background. And because he's that big of an ego and he wants to top off Hangman Lee from last night's podcast, he wanted me to do his own ring introduction. So, that being said, with my Japanese, of course, 第試合シングルマッチ一本勝負ございます。青コーナープロレスリングロード GHC ヘビー級選手権試合ジェシー・ロドリゲスAll right, Rod, welcome to the show. Calling live from the cell phone.
Yeah, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going, you know, here at home, just relaxing, chilling out, you know, being the guest of the show. It's going.
Yeah, that's all you can say after I went that extra on your introduction? You ass.
Hey, I mean, I'm trying to keep it down. I got my wife sleeping, my kids are trying to sleep. I'm the only one that's up right now. You know, I got my family man, busy guy most of the time.
Oh, so in other words,
you know.
So in other words, you're being Ricky Steamboat right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
No wonder why you didn't last long as world champion. Oops.
There's things I don't even last long, but I'm not gonna get into that.
Great U.S. and TV champion though.
He did.
11-time tag champion.
One-time NWA champion. Who knows? I mean, hey, there's a lot of things that Ricky Steamboat accomplished in his career too. Tag team champion. Who knows? You know, you name it. He's got
11 different tag team titles with 4 different partners.
I mean, the major part is that, you know, watching his career, and it's just like, man, you wonder if he would have been WWF champion in the future. But, you know,
I think
Hulk Hogan, so
I don't think so. But then again, Savage, who was the same size as him, he was world champion. And anyone who's listening on the group chat, if you're a wrestling fan, please put in your 2 cents on any topic, because tonight's episode, we're talking shop about pro wrestling, and we're just pretty much gonna like go random. And right now, I'm just gonna mention the elephant in the room. So, am I the only person who did not want Kota Ibushi to win the G1 Climax?
Yeah, that and the many people, I guess, that they weren't happy. But to be honest with you, I want to see Shigo to win the whole thing because I called it from the beginning. Ever since he was also, part of, Dragon Gate when he came into New Japan to join Los Ingobernables and hop on. I mean, I called it from the start when he joined the junior heavyweight tournament, and I said at the beginning he's going to win that, and then he's going to also win the G1 Climax. He's going to be the first ever to win a junior heavyweight tournament and a world heavyweight tournament. And, my prediction was wrong. I was close enough, but, he made it to the junior heavyweight finals, and he just didn't go forward with the G1. I mean, which I was kind of shocked about it because of how big they were pushing him in the junior heavyweight title. And it's just, to me, I think it's just that with New Japan, I don't know what direction they're going with. I mean, we have Gato, who's the booker, and it's just, it shouldn't be difficult, to book something, but I guess you gotta have to apply by the pressure as a booker. Dusty Rhodes was good as a booker. He knew how to handle the pressure. He put people in the right moments in the right places. It is what it is.
And plus, Dusty Rhodes was, Ghetto was known for being the biggest mark for Dusty Rhodes. Like, anything Dusty Rhodes, he'd be like, oh my God, oh. So, he's like a Dusty Rhodes. I love you.
So you want to give him a big hug.
He's like,
this big Dusty.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And, it is what it is, but I still think that they could have done a lot better with the booking, but of course they were going to make Okada look strong, Jay White look strong, and honestly I think the only reason why Ibushi won is because he didn't sign over to AEW with his best friend. But even Omega said it, he didn't want to stop his best friend / on and off boyfriend from being IWGP Heavyweight Champion.
That's big props to Kenny Omega. Give him respect, give him some space. It's time to make history, man. Trying to make history.
But then,
I'm sorry.
I'm feeling some type of way when he wanted to take away Naito's dream, saying he's gonna go for both Intercontinental and Heavyweight titles at Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 and 2.
I don't know. That didn't surprise me from Ghetto because I know he wasn't going to put Naito and book him as the top guy in New Japan. I just don't know. Like I said, I don't know what direction New Japan is going. It's very confusing, but I still like it. I still enjoy it because I'm a wrestling fan. So,
of course.
Because I'm definitely gonna watch wrestling. I don't care what promotion it is. It's like how we started our group, Strong Style Pro Wrestling. How long ago we started that group? Like 2-3 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and it was like amazing because the rise of this group. We don't have that many members in our group, but to understanding that we built this wrestling group to help people like fans and wrestlers alike. You know, I always speak to the independent wrestlers out here, you know, in the Northeast, like especially New York, like El Rey All Day, EC Negro. Then you got the Jurassic Juggernaut, Ken Steele. You got Sonny Black, aka King Jeter. You know, the two big colossal dudes. I even speak to AJ Orsini at times. You know, I listen to his podcast. You know, and he's a you know, a big wrestling guy. He's been in the business for a long time. I mean, I told you guys, I told him, you know, come to our group. You know, you guys are welcome to promote anything you want to promote. You want to promote yourself into any promotion you're going in, and any events that you want to promote, feel free. Everybody is having a blast with the group. I mean, we only have less than 400 members. I mean, people be like, oh, but it's not that many. I'm like, I'd rather have that many than have 3,000 or 4,000 and have a whole bunch of problems in the group because people can't get along with each other, and you got a bunch of trolls and, you know, spams in the group, which I don't feel like dealing with. We already dealt with a troll before, and all I asked was, can he cut a promo? And he's complaining that all I do is to keep telling him to cut a promo. Well, if you're going to disrespect a wrestler, a legend like Giant Baba, who, yes, I am an All Japan Fights guy, and I love All Japan Pro Wrestling. I watched highlights from the 80s and 90s, especially a little bit of the 70s. And you're going to disrespect the guy who paved the way, the business, for the future of All Japan Pro Wrestling. I was upset with that, but like I said, I don't let people win the emotion game of trying to get into my head. I simply said, if you're going to come to our group and try to troll, you know, you got another thing coming. If you can't cut a promo, then why are in my group?
I mean, that's easy. Like that's what gets you into pro wrestling in general. The pre-match interviews. Like I'm not gonna lie, probably right now, and he still is the best guy on promos in New Japan. Naito. Naito is probably the only wrestler who's bilingual in his interviews.
I mean, the guy's incredible. He can speak Spanish and English, and then to me, it's just wow. That guy, he's unique in his own way. Naito is a type of wrestler where people say, you know, most people will state their opinions. Oh, well, he got his style from this and that. And I'm like, well, technically, he's doing it his way. And it's different how he does it with everybody because he has, what you say, the charisma that he didn't have in the past, which he built up when he joined Los Angeles in Mexico.
He's always had charisma. I mean, because the one thing you learn, any wrestler who came out of the Animal Hamaguchi dojo is charismatic. Shingo, charismatic. Jushin Liger, charismatic. Naito, charismatic. I mean, as much as people talk about how awesome the Stardust press used to be when Naito did it, he didn't even, the first time he did the move, wasn't even in New Japan. It was on 0-1. Because they were doing the storyline with Makabe and Ryuji Sai, I think. And at that time, Naito was getting ready to come back from Mexico with Yujiro. And honestly, I thought Yujiro of the two was going to be the big name, not Naito. You know?
I know that. That tells you in itself of how the booking and like how the wrestler presents himself at times. But it just shows. I mean, it's basically what the fans want. You know. I mean, to me, I'm like I said, like you have told me, there's people that complain about the product. You know, and I don't go off topic about this, but it's like people that complain about the product all the time, about the WWE this, the WWE that, and people say, well, I don't want to watch this because of da-da-da-da-da. I mean, they just giving us some lame excuse. I'm watching it because I'm a wrestling fan. So I thank God that the WWE Network, so I could catch up on some wrestling, and then I can watch my favorite wrestlers from WCW, since now they got the WCW library in the network. To start being on, you know, how I started becoming a wrestler, I don't go off topic and subject, but how I started becoming a wrestling fan, it's funny and surprising at times because I didn't like wrestling in the beginning. Like, cause I got used to WWF for like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Andre the Giant.
That's
You
because you're a
know,
Northeast guy.
yeah. And the thing too was that my cousin used to come over. Shout out to my cousin Fred. He used to come over when we was kids. I used to live in New York. I used to live in Inwood, Washington Heights line. And he used to come over from, Queens, and his mom would drop him off during the summer. We hang out and stuff like that. Because I was like the only child. My sister already left and moved out when I was about 4 or 5 years old, somewhere around there. He used to come over. I was more of a baseball fan than wrestling. He would come over and just interrupt my baseball show. Like, dude, I'm watching this. What are you doing? He's like, no, I want to watch wrestling. This what's going on. And we'll fight for over the TV. I was like, you know what, you win, forget it. Because my grandmother was also a wrestling fan. So when I got older, about say 6, 7 years old, I turned into TBS one night, and they had this wrestling promotion called World Championship Wrestling, as you know, WCW. And I was like, wow, amazed about this. Like, wow, this is some good wrestling. Then I see Sting coming out and cutting a promo. I said, dang, this guy's really good. And it amazed me because the feel for it. Like, I was watching Ric Flair cut a promo. This was the first time I ever seen these guys. Because, we're more up northeast. We never seen wrestling from down south. So when I got to experience the wrestling from down south and, NWA, WCW, I was amazed about these guys, how they wrestled, how they cut promos. It was just like you felt it. There was a feeling to it. It wasn't like how, to me, no offense, how WWF was like all soap opera dramatic and all, like, the screaming and all that. They were screaming in WCW, but there was a certain action to it, though. It was like a passionate scream. Like, it's not like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. It's something that it was telling me a story. Like, to me, who was one of the favorite guys that I used to like cut promos was Warren Anderson. The way he cut promos was just, wow, I felt it. Like, man, this guy's really, like, he's really aggressive. Like, he's pissed off. Like, he really want to go down there and just go through the TV and beat you up type of deal. Like, you just don't want to meet these guys at a nightclub or somewhere at a bar and start a fight with them. That's how I felt. Like, wow, this guy's really going to hit him. He's really going to beat him up. That's the difference between WCW and WWF. Why I like WCW more? Because it felt real to me. It had a sense of, like, I'm going to hurt you type of thing. Like, oh, you hurt my feelings, and I'm going to break your neck, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to back up my talk. Ric Flair's done it so many times. That's why he was a pro at it. But the way I see it was that growing up as a pro wrestling fan, watching WCW at that age, years to come, I didn't see my first pay-per-view. And funny enough, it was a WWF pay-per-view. It was called In Your House. The very first In Your House pay-per-view I saw.
Man, them In Your House pay-per-views sucked. I'm sorry. I was probably the 10% of people that hated In Your House. And this is coming from a guy whose first pay-per-view that he seen was Great American Bash 1990. That was the first pay-per-view. That was the first pay-per-view I remember seeing. And living down south, the only channel we had for WWF was Fox before it got on USA, before we got USA. Because living in base housing, you had the basic channels. So I was able to watch Worldwide and WCW Main Event and Saturday Night, because those were basic. And the only WWF channel I was able to watch was Superstars. And I remember the first time I watched, all that, and, to my memory. For all I know, I could have been watching, excuse me, I could have been watching WWF first before WCW. But I remember WCW first because it was everywhere. And even for my birthday, my mom bought me those. You remember that big Sting action figure from Galoob, the one that was
Yeah.
like 2 feet tall or whatever. Yeah, I had one of those. That thing was awesome to have.
And Blue made good action figures back in the day too.
Yeah, and you know what? The WWF LJNs were very overlooked too. And I'm not saying that because I have one also made after me, but I never had an LJN as a kid. I grew up with the Hasbro WWF figures, and then there was the Jax figures, and then like the ones that are made by Mattel. I pretty much got in its original packaging.
Yeah, it's amazing how over the years that how much, especially in wrestling action figures changed over the years with the companies, the businesses, deals that they have to do, the contracts and all that. That's just, but I'm not really much of a business guy. I really don't know much about business. But as it may, it's just like those action figures were legendary. To me, everybody like wrestling buddies. Another one that was pretty cool. As a kid, like you could beat up wrestler and play wrestler and stuff like that. Just have an imaginary match. Put your own imaginary stipulation on it, or a gimmick as you call it. So, but back in the day, wrestling was wrestling. We loved it. My grandmother, I used to sit down with my grandmother all the time, and to me, my favorite women, and when I was watching, pro wrestling, as like being up as a wrestling fan, watching wrestling with my uncle and my grandmother, may she rest in peace to her. So I had great times with my grandmother watching wrestling. But to me, my favorite moment was when we got to watch Bash at the Beach '96. We all know what happened that year. We all saw what happened. But it was just that shocking look she had when she saw Hulk Hogan turn heel. I tell you, man, I never. I was shocked myself too. My jaw, I was like, what? What is going on? He was the third man the whole time, and we didn't know about it.
And it was so crazy because out of all the people, I would have never expected Hogan.
I know, and this is the man we're talking about who started his wrestling career as a heel.
And to be honest, I was thinking Flair.
Flair being the third guy?
I thought Flair was going to be the third guy because he had a vendetta with Sting, Luger, and Savage, and he used to be tag partners with Scott Hall.
Back in the early 90s, yeah, I recall that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was him. I had the biggest feeling I had was that I thought it was going to be Macho Man, Randy Savage, or Lex Luger, because those guys were in the WWF at that time.
And they were also heels. Sting never been a heel.
Yeah, Sting never been, but Sting never went to the WWF at that time. Sting was always WCW, NWA. I'm telling you, man, if anybody was more faithful to a company, it had to be Sting.
Yeah, because he really never went anywhere else. Now, I get how they say The Undertaker always been WWF. Nah, he was in WCW too.
He was also in, I think, not AEW, correction. He was in another promotion. I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was either GWF or...
He was in USWA.
USWA, correction.
Yeah, when he was called, what did he call himself? He went by some name because I'll never
Texas
forget.
Red.
Huh?
Texas Red.
No, there was another one when he went to USWA. Like, I forgot what name he went by. But Master of Pain.
Yeah, Master of Pain. Now we get Master of Pain.
Because I remember that god-awful promo he cut. And Tommaso's Master of Pain. He said, I've been going everywhere. He said, I was in Atlanta's penitentiary for 2 years. And for reasons that I don't want to talk about. Tommaso, I'm like, and the way he was going, and he was like, I'll be doing this, brother. And brother, I'm like, okay, I get it. The Undertaker's a white guy, but because of the people he associated with, he talked more like a black dude from Texas. You know?
was he in prison. No offense, but you know, like I said, Undertaker was one of those guys where you know he was green, you know, beginning his career, and you know he started moving up and he started growing up. And the thing to me is, I'm not gonna lie, I used to like me Mark Calloway in WCW, and to me it was because not just because of how he cut promos, it was just that he had Paul E. Dangerously and Teddy Long as his manager. And when he had Paul E. Dangerous, which is now Paul Heyman, as his manager, to be honest with you, I think that was a good fit. But I guess the contracts and negotiations of, you know, trying to move on and trying to, you know, get big in his business, you know, I guess it caught Vince man's eye, like, oh, this guy's a free agent. Why don't we just sign him and do something with him? You know? But sometimes you got to get credit to do what it's due, you know, and I give credit to Paul Heyman for making him, you know, part of that the business of helping him out. And as he grows, you know, further and further in wrestling, now he's the Undertaker, now he's the Phenom. He made his name in WWF, which is WWE now. You know, it's amazing because when I first saw the Undertaker, I was like, he looks familiar, but my uncle was like the one that pointed him out. He was like, oh, that's Mark Calloway, because every time I watched wrestling with my uncle, he's always pointing something out. Oh, that guy was in WCW. I know that guy. You know, like one time, it was funny because my uncle and his son too, we used to watch wrestling together. My cousin Fred, he would basically point out one time when Scott Hall went into WWF the first time. It was like, wait, that guy was the Diamond Stud. And then, you know, Kevin Nash playing as Diesel, I said that guy was Vinny Vegas, because Vinny Vegas was my favorite character in WCW.
Really?
Yeah, he was.
I couldn't see you as a Vinny Vegas type of guy.
Yeah, he was funny. I don't know why. Him cutting a promo as Vinny Vegas just caught my attention.
He'd be like, hey, bada bing, bada boom. Don't say Vinny Vegas, y'all. Where the money at, y'all? Come on, bada bing, bada boom. Like, what it do, y'all? Like, come on, y'all, what it do? Hey, take it easy, man. Come on. Snake Eyes. Like, what?
And that was one of my favorite finishers too, was the Snake Eyes.
But I'm like, I wasn't no fool. I'm like, wasn't this dude Oz?
Yeah, he was Oz. I remember Oz.
I know, but I'm just saying as a kid, I was like, wasn't this brother Oz? Like you really ain't fooling us right now.
I know, it's so funny. Like, it's just like the gimmicks. But it was also, he was also part of the Master Blasters. I remember.
And that didn't last long because of Al Green botching a headbutt. He got fired. But that was during the time where Jim Herd in WCW was making people have the most stupidest gimmicks, but they were getting paid a lot of money for it. So I get it. But come on. There was gimmicks that were so out of ding-dongs, okay? That was dumb. That's just as dumb as the NWA tag title tournament that they did in 92. Do you remember the Dominican Republic tag team, the Headhunters?
Oh, yeah, I remember them, yeah.
A.K.A. two white guys in a mask bodysuit. Come on.
Yeah. I know.
Come on.
Tell me about it.
They might as well just let that be the team that got in the car wreck, not the Puerto Rican team.
Who knows? I mean, the Puerto Rican team could have been Savio Vega and Miguel Perez. For all we know.
Well, I mean, I think the original team was El Boricua and Fidel Sierra, who was also known as the Cuban assassin.
Yeah, it can't fool nobody. But like I said, I don't know. I mean, it's just what Jim Hart did to WCW was like, even Tony Schiavone said in his podcast.
Fuck Jim Hart.
Yeah, he said it just like that. He couldn't stand Jim Hart. I mean, it was a podcast. I'm trying to remember what episode it was. It was him and Conrad Thompson doing What Happened When. I'm trying to remember what episode he was talking about, where he knew that WCW was going to go down the drain. and I think it was a pay-per-view event during '91 that was it was an issue with Jim Hurt and Ric Flair. They were having issues. They wanted Ric Flair to be this like painted in gold Spartacus character, and it was just like what?
Yeah, that was the original idea for the very first Super Bowl.
But the thing was that there was an issue with that too because you had a match between Tatsumi Fujinami and Ric Flair fighting for the NWA Heavyweight title. You know, which was like everybody was looking forward to watching that match. Everybody was like, oh, I want to watch this match because, you know, we got a guy from Japan who's a legend and wrestled in the WWF in the past. You know, became a world junior heavyweight champion and a great wrestler at that and a big name, you know, pop culture in the 80s in Japan. So you got Ric Flair, Thompson, you got two legends in the ring wrestling for this one glorious title. And that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Fujinami was IWGP Heavyweight Champion at that time.
Well, technically, at the time, Fujinami was IWGP Heavyweight Champion and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and Flair was recognized as the WCW World Heavyweight Champion because at the time, that belt was considered disputed. It was one belt, but it was defended as two different titles, which I thought that was kind of confusing.
Yeah, then the kids confused. Like, what championship belt are we going with?
It was like, because if you notice, on the show, all they said for the World Heavyweight title. They didn't say WCW. They didn't say NWA. They just said World Heavyweight title. So when Flair won, so by the way that they made it seem in the books, Flair retained the WCW World title and regained the NWA World Heavyweight title. But it's still the same belt. That's the part that I don't get. It's the same belt, y'all. Just different titles.
Technically, it's like the same thing with the NWA International Heavyweight or WCW International Heavyweight title, which I didn't get either because when WCW is having two world titles, I didn't get that either. That even would confuse me more because you had Sting winning one belt and you had Ric Flair winning another belt. I didn't get that either. I was so confused because I remember, what was it, between the years of 91, 92, 93, 92 was like the beginning of the NWA or WCW International Heavyweight title belt, which was the NWA World Heavyweight title. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is why is WCW having two champions? Like two world champions basically, but you know one's international, which I didn't get. But then you had New Japan, because I know they were doing business with New Japan at the time because of Eric Bischoff.
Well, not just that. They were not only were they doing business with New Japan, but they were doing business with the NWA. And for the second time in a row, they kicked the NWA to the curb. And when they did that, that's when the NWA World Heavyweight title was recognized as the International WCW World Heavyweight title.
And which was won by, two great legends of New Japan.
Well, the first champion was Flair. It was Flair, then Rude, then Hase, then Rude, then Sting, then Rude, and then the belt got vacated, and then Sting beat Vader, and then he lost the belt to Flair in the unification match.
Well, wait a minute, aren't we forgetting two champions before that?
Who?
Before Flair won it from Barry Windham, we had
Great Muta and Masachono.
Yes.
But it sucked how Muta had such a short reign. He only had the belt for a month. And the match he had with Windham, you can tell that man was so jet lagged. All he did throughout the match was rest holds.
Yeah, he was beat. I mean, that match was terrible, to be honest with you. And it sucked that they booked him in a match like that. You know? And it was like, what, you're going to give Barry Windham an easy win like that? I mean, come on. I mean, to me, it was just like, okay, it seemed seemed like a short-lived memory for those two guys winning those belts. I mean, Chono didn't get the pop or the big of being the champion from WCW.
Well,
you know, we're talking about a guy who was a good wrestler at his peak at that time.
Well, you also got to look at it like this. The fans were not really familiar with Masahiro Chono. So if you're a WCW fan in 92, you're really only familiar with two Japanese wrestlers. And if your name isn't the Great Muta or Jushin Thunder Liger, they don't know who you are. You know, not everyone had access to the pay-per-views. Not everybody saw Wrestle War where it was Chono and Iizuka. Not everyone saw, you know, the NWA title tournament where we saw guys like Akira Nogami and Hiroshi Hase and
correction. So we're brought to was Fujinami and Iizuka. Wasn't Chono. Chono didn't wrestle that. It was the night with the Steiner brothers versus
Wrestle War.
Fujinami.
Wrestle War,
Yeah, Wrestle War 92. That was a good match.
But you knew what the fuck I meant, dog. Don't be trying to get all funny. I'm like, well, it was actually. You knew where I was getting at. You knew where I was getting at. Don't make me get the iron glove and, like, chop you in the neck with it.
Don't be mad because I'm styling on you.
Oh, on one thing. You got a long way to go. Now, All Japan, yeah, you got me beat. But when you want to talk about, you know, New Japan, Dragon Gate, War, Noah, Michinoku Pro, and then let's not get started on the women's promotion because that's where I really cannonball you out the water. You know.
And surprisingly, Dakota cannonballs me out with the Joshi Pro Wrestling because the women's Japanese promotions, that's all her right there.
But see, that's the thing. I kept telling you for the longest, because you're big on WCW, you should have watched Gaia Japan. Gaia Japan was pretty much like the female version of WCW.
I know, but the thing, we didn't have Japanese TV at the time.
Neither did I. I just watched the DVDs like the past 5-6 years.
The DVDs.
But I'm just saying, pretty much how they were booked because they had, you know, the 3AW singles belt, the 3AW tag titles. They had and the belts that they had briefly was the WCW Women's Heavyweight, WCW Women's Cruiserweight, you know.
Pretty much WCW.
Yeah, see what I mean? And not just that, when it came to the talent exchange, we saw people like, you know, Akira Hokuto, Kaoru, Chigusa Nagayo under the Zero gimmick. We saw Meiko Satomura when she was only 15 wrestling on Nitro. You know, Toshie Uematsu, all them people. You know, Sonoko Kato. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know, and it's funny too that you said that you brought up some Japanese wrestling. I'm trying to remember. There was from the last time I remember I was watching Wrestle War, or was it? Yeah, it was Wrestle War 92 that they even had a women's match from Japan. They had 4 different women. I'm trying to remember the names because one of them is a legend too now.
Chigusa Nagayo?
Yeah, Chigusa Nagayo was in that match, I think, if I can recall, but there was another one.
Yeah, she was called Zero.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, like, this is Wrestle War 92 WCW. They even had...
Oh, never mind. I know you're talking about Isuki Yamazaki and Miss A, who later on became Dynamite Kansai.
Yeah, and it was funny because when I mentioned it to Conrad Thompson on Messenger one time, it blew his mind. He was amazed by it. Like, yo, how did you find out? I was like, thanks to my friend Mike Cook, he's the one that taught me about the promotion of it. I remember the Japanese jumping Bomb Angels. I remember Nagayo.
And see, that's the funny part. One of the jumping Bomb Angels was in that match at Wrestle War.
Yeah, it was. She was.
Mm-hmm. Isuki Yamazaki. Because the other one, Norio Teteno, was injured at the time.
And it was funny because I'm trying to remember who name it was that she teamed up with that we know now.
I told you, Miss A.
Miss A.
Yeah, Dynamite Kansai, yeah.
Dynamite Kansai, yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, we could go on and on with wrestling history.
Maybe we could, but yeah.
You know, I'll feel it most of the time because, like I said, I got stuck on WCW in All Japan. But at that time, it's just like I watched a lot of All Japan. Like, and it's funny you say that because I had to give you a big thanks to you because if it wasn't for you, I would have never gotten back into watching wrestling again. Because you know, after getting married and having kids, I had no interest in anything in life. You know, besides baseball, like I got stuck on baseball most of the time, and my wife wouldn't even approve wrestling in the household because she'd be like, "Oh, it's too violent, this and that, it's boring." That
How
I
is
remember
pro wrestling boring?
I just my wife she's a different person. I love her to death and all that. I just wish she got to see a wrestling match one day. But which I noticed, I caught her watching wrestling one time. She won't admit it to this day. She still likes wrestling. She just doesn't want to admit it. But
She's a low key wrestling fan.
she's a low key closet wrestling fan. She don't want to admit it to me. You know. And she told me she used to watch wrestling during the Attitude Era. She was a Triple H fan. I was like, no, you're not. Is that the only wrestler you knew? Because he's from Greenwich, Connecticut? Shoot. I was like, everybody used to like the Attitude Era, but that was the only time that everybody liked wrestling.
Yeah,
So
like
wrestling fans liked it. Other wrestling, like WCW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Yeah, I brought that up.
I
You
like
know,
Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette's a funny guy.
He is.
Big shout out to Jim Cornette. Who else? There was a lot of promotions at that time going on. I remember GWF.
Yeah, Global Wrestling Federation and USWA and what else? There were just so many different, like ECW when it was part of the NWA when they were Eastern Championship Wrestling. And I remember reading like issues of Pro Wrestling Illustrated where, you know, they were talking about, you know, East Coast Championship Wrestling, which is still going on to this day. That's like the longest running independent wrestling promotion right now. And right behind it, you got Maryland Championship Wrestling. Like that's another long time promotion. That's how bands like the Headbangers, that's how they got discovered.
And speaking of independent wrestling, like Global Federation Wrestling, we would never know who Raven was.
Yeah,
He
Scotty
started out as,
Anthony.
like, Scotty Anthony, and then went to
Marcus Bagwell
WWE.
was the handsome stranger. Hell, that's how honestly, that was my first introduction to the Lightning Kid and Jerry Lynn.
Yeah, GW, ESPN. Used to be on ESPN in the afternoon.
Same
Like 3
with
o'clock, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
yep, same with the UWF right afterwards.
UWF. It's funny, the only reason why I think about UWF is like Kenta Maeda. You know, that comes off my head too. We'll get back to that conversation in a bit. We're still going on with the U.S. wrestling independent scenes. But yeah, that's how we discovered the 1-2-3 Kid and Jerry Lynn. Watching GWF, and then that's when he came in. I think they were affiliated with WWF, if I'm not mistaken.
Not yet. It was before they got signed on because both of them even were tag partners in Michinoku Pro because they were GWF Tag Team Champions.
Well, I would love to see that match. See them wrestle in Michinoku Pro. Or any promotion in Japan as a tag team. I would take my money.
And
Because I was a big Jerry Lynn fan back in the day.
I hopped on the Jerry Lynn bandwagon from ECW. I admit it. I was a Jerry Lynn bandwagon jumper just from his matches with Rob Van Dam. And I hated to say it, his matches weren't the same whenever he went against someone like Lance Storm or Just Incredible. But them matches with Rob Van Dam, I'm like, oh man, he's about to beat Rob. He's about to beat Rob. Oh, nah, Rob won. Or next week, he's like, he's about to be close to beat Rob. He's going to beat Rob. He's going to beat Rob. Oh, no.
But I'll tell you the truth, imagine those guys wrestling for the ECW heavyweight champion and having a year-long feud. I think that would have been one of the greatest, to me, that's one of the greatest feuds in wrestling.
They did have a match over the ECW World Heavyweight title.
So, wait, when was this?
On an episode of Hardcore TV.
Oh, crap. I'm far behind that.
Yeah, he beat
I'm every shot.
the match was a no contest due to Steve Corino and Just Incredible and the Sandman interfering because it was before the double Jeopardy match.
Everybody beat the crap out of each other.
Pretty much.
Only ECW. But what I was gonna also bring up too is that like the careers of other wrestlers that we discovered. I mean, we could go on and on and on. The list names for forever where we see matches. But I remember that one. That I want to go back to WCW right now. I know I'm going off topic, but it's like that conversation that me and you had. There was one rivalry that I felt that just like reached into me, and everybody has the different favorite rivalries. Everybody would mention Steamboat, Flair, Rhodes, and all that. The rivalry that should have had a long, with some great heat was Sting and Rick Rude back in '91 and '92.
Oh,
that would have
yes.
been one of the greatest feuds in pro wrestling if these bookers knew what they were doing. I mean, these guys worked so great. Rick Rude can work with anybody, especially when he's a heel. He's having so much heat. Like, people don't understand how great Rick Rude was. To me, he was one of the greatest heels of all time. Top notch. He had to be like the top 5. And the way he worked with Sting was just like, you got one of your hottest babyface in WCW, and you got one of your top greatest, hottest heels in WCW, and clashing together. When Rick Rude came to WCW in '91, and when he won the U.S. title, and then when you pushed Sting and Lex Luger in that match should have been Rick Rude versus Sting for the WCW World Heavyweight title at Great American Bash, because you would have had a storyline to go from the beginning of the ending of '91 all the way down to Great American Bash.
Shit,
And
I'd
people don't realize it.
I'd say, if it was me, how I would have booked it. So Sting beats Luger, right? Then he gets his revenge on Cactus Jack at a Beach Blast. Then him and Rude go at it at Great American Bash. Sting wins, but they still keep going at it all the way throughout the year. I'd say by Starrcade or by the next year, Super Brawl, I would have said Rude beat Sting for the belt.
I mean, to me, I would have said Sting beats Rude, and then they have a rematch of Super Brawl 3 to end it, to end that rivalry right there in that storyline between Rude and Sting. Now, the stipulation would have said exactly as it is. That would have been Rick Rude's last time in a title match. But like I said, it's just like you don't see stipulations like that or gimmicks in that type of match in these matches now, because it's totally different. Wrestling's totally different now. But to look back at that, I mean, we even conversated so many times about this, about Sting and Rick Rude having this long feud of how bad these guys hated each other, and they showed it. And this is what I loved about the kayfabe times, because it wouldn't show me what's going on in the back locker room. Like, everybody's cool with each other. Like, dude, you guys just beat crap at each other and had a feud. Now your friends back in the locker room. I don't need to see that, because then you're just making it not believable for me. You get what I'm saying? I want it to be believable. I'll give you one example right now. There's a promotion going on, and a guy I befriended on not just Facebook, but befriended in the wrestling independent scene, Eric Jaden, Sexy Fan. He's going to be going against Darius Carter, who is the BCW Championship, which is called Recombination Wrestling. And these guys, to me, that would be a good feud, because Eric Jaden being a big part of BCW, Darius Carter being the champion, and being a great heel that he is. And to me, he's a great heel, and so is Eric Jaden. This is a match I want to go see, even though I have to go to work and all this other stuff, because I work on weekends, which sucks for me. I want to go see this match, because they're going back and forth on Facebook of who's the best, and they're cutting polls on each other. I mean, it's so brilliant. It's kayfabe. I like the kayfabe. I want to know it's believable that these guys really hate each other inside the ring. They're telling the story to going in from walking that aisle, coming out of the curtain, walking that aisle into the ring, and just beating the crap out of it. I don't want to see the cameras behind the locker room of them being friends and saying, you know, oh yeah, that was a good match and that. I don't need to see that. Because that won't make me believable as a wrestling fan. As a wrestling fan, to make me believable, you gotta kayfabe. Oh, I'm old school. I'm sorry. I'm old school. I need to make this match believable. You know what I'm saying? I need to see matches like this believable. I don't need to see guys being buddies in the back locker room because we got cameras that have access to the locker rooms. People being best friends, showing them after a match. You know, WWE, they show that all the time. And it's just like, no, I need to make it believable. I don't want to see cameras in the back of these guys hugging each other after a match. Okay, I need to be believable so I can make me feel like a wrestling fan again. And that's what I miss about wrestling because I didn't even know Sting and Rick Rude were best friends because they usually back in the day they were heels that had separate locker rooms than the face, and they would never meet until with the booker, and they'll talk about the match afterwards. So that's the type of wrestling I miss. The wrestling that we see now is like everybody, buddy behind the locker room. And it's like, oh, we just had a match and we just cut promos on hating each other, and it's like now we're hugging out.
We're buddies, we're friends. Like, that's another thing. As much as I like the concept, don't get me wrong, I love Table for Three. But I saw an episode recently that broke kayfabe, where it's Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Ricochet sitting together eating. You guys are currently in the storyline where y'all hate each other. Yeah, y'all sitting eating that table. Yeah, we're buddies. Yeah, this chicken's good, man. Fucking right, buddy. Good old chicken. You know them days back in the Indies? Yeah, man. Yeah, this is great. Hey, I love you, man. I love you, too. There's some great green beans to go with this meal, man. Like, to me, Table for Three should be more for the legends. And, and they were spot on in the beginning when it came to wrestlers who had the same thing in common. Like, they had one of all great Intercontinental champions past and present. That was good. Then they had World Title Legacy where it was Orton, Flair, and Harley Race. Like, that made sense. Then they had one where it was WCW Classics where it was Sting, Steamboat, and Vader. That made sense.
Oh, man, that was my favorite episode. Even though I'm a big Sting fan, but Sting's feud with Vader, I think, to me, was one of the best in WCW.
Yeah, because I hate to say, Sting made Vader.
Yeah, he did. He made Vader. I mean, to me, I know Vader was big in Japan. He had his big matches with Stan Hansen and other wrestlers, with Inoki, Fujinami, And it's just like, when he came to WCW, it was just like, whoa, Sting was like, yo, take it easy, man. This is wrestling. We're not beating each other. This isn't Japan. No offense, but it's just, speaking of that, you know what? I'm going to go back to what the match that I saw with Sting, with Vader back in 92, where Vader attacked him. The one that when Vader attacked him, this was like the beginning of the storyline before the Great American Bash.
Oh, the one where he had his ribs bruised by him.
Yeah, and this was before Wrestle War, the upcoming pay-per-view that was going to happen. Yeah, they both done this before. So, my thing was that Vader beating the crap out of Sting was just how Sting worked. Sting was the type of face that where this guy will take a beating and the whole entire match and come back. The difference with Sting and other wrestlers, yeah, they will show you the 5 moves of doing whatever. Sting was very athletic. This guy was like a muscle. He had the shape, the figure, and everything. Like, as a big, powerful guy. But the guy had speed and agility. The guy could come off the top rope and do an awesome maneuver, a high-fly maneuver that nobody would thought he would do. I would do a stinger splash from like half the ring to the turnbuckle. I never seen any wrestlers do something like that. I mean, except for the cruiserweights. But a guy for his size, I mean, wow, it impresses me a lot. That's why I was a big Sting fan, because of his athleticism. And speaking of that, going back to what I was saying, I remember watching the whole match between Sting going in an All Japan match.
Oh, I remember this one. Yo, you had me laughing when because the ending, like the whole time, Steen's beating the shit out of him, and then afterwards, Spivey did a simple roll up, and then afterwards, Sting moved the ref out of the way, and like jumps off the top rope on Dan Spivey. I thought that was the most funniest thing ever, just the ending of that match.
And to me, when I showed you the match, I was like, yo, you gotta see this match, because you recently was talking on Messenger not too long ago about that, and I couldn't stop laughing either. I had to watch the match over again, because I was like, wait a minute, Sting had a heel turn in All Japan, and I never knew Sting was in All Japan, but I remember that NWA did business with All Japan in the past, because they used to have Ric Flair, Harley Race, whoever was NWA heavyweight champion at the time to go travel and wrestle in Japan, defend the title belts. You know, which to me they had really good matches in All Japan. I mean, you can go from Jumbo Tsuruta, you can go to
Rick Martel,
Nitro Tenru, Rick Martel, Nick Bockwinkel, who was an AWA champion at the time. They had a lot of like good matches back in it. To me, one of my favorite matches was Tenru versus Ric Flair for the NWA heavyweight title, because it was like, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Tenru's first time having a title match, his first time trying to have a title match, and I recall that how good these guys worked together. You know, and Tenru was a good wrestler too. I mean, even though coming from a sumo background to get into pro wrestling, he was one of my favorite wrestlers in All Japan from the '80s. And the feud with him and Jumbo Tsuruta was another classic one. I mean, to me, even though I didn't grow up watching All Japan at the time, but thank God for YouTube, I used to watch the matches from back then. And what sticks out was that even, you know, reading his son Yuji's post from Facebook and just going on, and he was mentioning about the rivalry that and the feud that between Tenru and Tsuruta. It was just like we knew that this was gonna be one of the best feuds in all Japan, but then when Tenru wanted to move on and did his own promotions, Tsuruta knew, and then when when Tenru dropped the belt to him, it was like, okay, what's next? Then we had guys like Misawa, Kawada. Then you got uppercomers like Kobashi, Akiyama. I mean, the list goes on with All Japan. This is what I loved. And that's not even just the Japanese wrestlers in general. You had the Kaijins like Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Dr. Death Williams. I mean, these guys had great matches in All Japan. Vader was also involved. Stan Hansen, Bruce Brody, Superfly Jimmy Snuka at one point was in All Japan. Who else? Like I said, the list goes on and on. I've been watching a lot of World Tag Leagues from back in the day. The Real World Tag Leagues. Correction, I said it right. Those matches were even legendary in Japan. Not too many people remember the Can-Am Express. With Dan Crawford and Doug Furnace. I mean, that was a good tag team.
I miss Doug Furnace. Like, I didn't care too much for Dan Crowell, even when he was Phil LaFon in WWF. I just thought Doug Furnace could have been like a big single star.
I mean, for all we know, he could have been part of the title pictures for the Triple Crown back in the early 90s. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former All-Asian tag.
I mean, yeah, that tag match with the Can Express versus Kobashi and Kikuchi. I mean, that's to me that's a 5-star tag match. I mean, when I was watching that tag match like on YouTube like a couple years ago, I was like, man, I was amazed of that work in the ring, like how much effort these guys. And it's funny because we didn't even see the promos because they don't show the promos before that. They, usually All Japan has a tradition where they have to interview the wrestlers before the match, and they'll go into the ring and it'll be a short promo, like 5 like 2 minute promo. Like, yeah, I'm ready to go in his match, or the interviews are asking, such and such, and I just give him a quick answer and then just get ready in the ring and wrestle. This is what I loved about All Japan, because they weren't cutting too many promos, but they did a lot. They showed a lot of wrestling. New Japan was like the opposite. They cut a lot of promos. They did a lot of wrestling, but they had wrestlers cut promos. They saw backstage people hating each other, and a lot of the list goes on and on. But All Japan was a little bit different. You see guys cut like 2 minute promos, and then they go in there and they just handle their business in the ring, and it was awesome. That was the difference between those two promotions. The reason why I liked All Japan so much is because they had wrestlers going in there, especially more into the 90s, where they were showing like they were going the length of time. Like these guys were going almost 40 minutes a match. The tournaments were great. I mean, even the tag team match, the tag tournaments were, it just amazed me. Like, I never seen wrestling like this before in my life. I mean, I wish we had, the Poon TV back in the day, in American television, but we never did. We grew up on just American wrestling. We didn't even know who the Japanese wrestlers were coming at the time, like, especially the 92 tournament where, one of the wrestlers got injured and the other one replaced him. We're like, oh, who's this guy? And it's amazing because, a lot of things what we never knew about Japanese wrestling, we know now because of access of YouTube now, people posting videos, people follow up on what's going on, basically catching up onto like the glory days of Japanese wrestling to then what it is now. A lot has changed. I mean, New Japan changed like it's gone commercial, like it's American pop culture now, to the opposite of what you see in Pro Wrestling Noah and All Japan. All Japan, and I'm marking my words on this one, I could be wrong. I think All Japan is going to make a comeback. We just don't know when. It's taking
All Japan already had a comeback. Noah's the one that needs to come back more than All Japan is. That's just my opinion. Noah needs it more, way more, especially right now. Noah is, I don't know if you heard the recent news, but Noah, along with The Crash and AAA, has been merged with Major League Wrestling.
Oh, I didn't even know that. When did this happen?
A couple of months ago when they did their Battle Riot pay-per-view.
Oh, snap. I totally forgot about
Minoru
that.
Tanaka was there. And he was on the next episode where he defended his junior heavyweight title against Daga. And right now, they're doing their N1 Victory League, and the current MLW National Openweight Champion Alexander Hammerstone's in the tournament. It's a Block A and a Block B. And it's guys like him, Keno, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Go Shiozaki, Masa Kitamiya, Keno, and a surprise entrant, which ended up being Dragon Gate's Masaki Mochizuki.
I know that shocked me too, because I remember I was reading into about the N1 Victory tournament. Mochizuki, I'm telling you, man, top-notch talent right there from Dragon Gate.
And the fact that he's still going in his mid-40s.
I mean, there's a lot of guys going in their mid-40s. Minoru Tanaka's one of them.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if you look at the Dragon Gate roster right now, these guys are like about to hit 40, if they're not close. Guys like Susumu Yokosuka, like I said, Mochizuki's in his mid-40s, Don Fuji's in his mid-40s, Genki Origuchi's in his 40s, Ryo Saito's getting there in his 40s. It's like right now, the time is now to push your younger generation. And it looks like, I hate to say it, Mochizuki Dojo has been the faction. That's going to be the new generation. Like you got the guys like Hiro Watanabe, you got, Keisuke Okuda who recently joined in. And then you got guys from Maximum like Kaito Ishida. I don't see him as being a Dreamgate champion. I can see him as Bravegate, but not Dreamgate.
Yeah, then Dragon Gate's another good promotion. They've been doing their thing for a while.
But here's the thing, though. How do you feel about them bringing Ultimo back into the system?
To be honest with you, I really don't know because, like, to be honest with you, I haven't been following Dragon Gate for a while. I've been, like, since with work and stuff, I've been busy and I'm just trying to follow up with a lot of stuff.
Well, to make a
I mean, how
long
I feel about that, I mean, to me, yeah, how I feel about when I read the story on Facebook, because, everything you get answers on Facebook, sometimes the internet. I don't know if it's going to be a big help or not to the company.
No, I think it's a big jump because, dude, it's been 15 years since Ultimo Dragon has stepped foot in the Dragon Gate ring. And now he's doing tours with Dragon Gate.
Yeah, but I mean, don't get me wrong, Ultimo Dragon is one of my favorite wrestlers. I mean, to me, as listen, when I found out he was coming to WWE wrestling, even though the booking system back then was screwed up, but in the way they booked him, the guy's a legend on his own. I used to love when I first discovered Ultimo Dragon was when he came with Sonny Ono at WCW. I forgot what was his first match, but man, the guy had some unbelievable talent. When I used to listen to Mike Tenay doing play-by-play for his matches, it just connected. It was just like Mike Tenay knew his history. Oh, he used to wrestle in Mexico. He knows Spanish. He's Japanese, but he had his excursion, and that's where he had his big name at. But when he came as Ultimo Dragon as a match wrestler, I mean, when I first discovered him, I was like, this guy's pretty good. Had his matches with Justin Thunder Liger and the rest of the crew. It was like Rey Mysterio. One of my favorite matches was well, everybody might not talk about it, but to me, one of my favorite matches of Ultimo Dragon was against Rey Mysterio Jr. And I think it was around the mid-90s, somewhere around there.
Yeah, either Hog Wild or World War III. My favorite was Ultimo Dragon versus Chris Jericho at Bash at the Beach because it was pretty much, a war reunion because both guys used to wrestle for Tenru's, wrestling romance promotion.
Yeah, I didn't catch up to those matches yet, but yeah, like I said, I didn't have access to YouTube, so when I do it at time, I definitely watch those matches.
It's on the network, bro.
I know, but like I said, it's just cold timing, kid. When you're married and have kids, you dedicate your time to away from kids most of the time, especially work.
Which will never happen.
Yeah, pray on it.
You ain't got to tell me twice.
Oh, man. I'm over here, don't mind me, I'm over here doing laundry too. I'm just like finishing up, whatever. But back to what we was talking about, it's just like, times like this, then when you kind of, know wrestling, like I said, I recommend, if you want to talk about wrestling historian, I recommend you to talk to Mike. Mike knows everything about wrestling more than I do. He's the reason why I got back to wrestling and started to learn more of what's going on because we all knew when once WCW went out of business, we didn't know what other promotions to watch. To me, personally, I don't know about how everybody else feels because I can't speak for everybody, but to me, WCW was my wrestling. It was my passion. It was my heart. I love WCW, but once it went out of business and I kind of lost interest in what's going on because of these crazy matches and stipulations they had. I mean, you had David Arquette as champion. You had, Vince Russo as champion. Like with all these title switches that happened towards the end of WCW, it was just like, you know what, man, this company's gone to crap. And it's just, I'm just trying to figure out what to do. What promotion should I watch, And it's been tough, to try to keep up with what's going on with other promotions that I didn't even know about. I never knew about Ring of Honor until, like, CM Punk mentioned it,
Oh,
I didn't know about all these wrestling promotions that came out, like, long ago. I mean, especially with Amazing Red.
Oh, I knew about I knew about Ring of Honor. I want to say 2002. I was at a wrestling, not a wrestling, but a weightlifting competition in Los Angeles, and I saw at like a FYE, it was a DVD to the very first Ring of Honor show, and the main event was Low Key versus Christopher Daniels versus the American Dragon Brian Danielson, who's now Daniel Bryan. But I remember seeing it was Eddie Guerrero's first match since being, out of rehab.
So they took me way back.
Yeah, because he had a match with a Super Crazy. And then they had like the big four-way dance to see who was the best Shawn Michaels student, because it was like some Hawaiian dude. There was another guy. The only two people that stood out to me was Michael Shane and Spanky. And Spanky ended up winning.
Yeah, it's funny too because the guys that I talked to like from the independent scene, like guys like EC Negro and trying to remember there's other names because they were also a part of that promotion too. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Also guys like that they were they knew who was who and what's what, and then I remember one time I was talking to EC Negro like on a personal level. He's a really cool guy to talk to. I'm telling you, I never knew that, an independent wrestler, how long he's been in the business. And he tells me that I even share, like, my fan experience, like, along with his fan experience, as not him as just being a wrestler, but as just being a fan. Like, he never knew much about, like, he heard of, like, All Japan, New Japan, and, everybody knows about New Japan, but, like, he never heard of All Japan. And he was, like, shocked that, like, I told him, if anything, I even shared him my All Japan account. I was like, yo, guys, you gotta watch this promotion. It's just pretty good. All Japan is really good. Some independent wrestlers, they've been so busy with, their lives and stuff like that going on. It's just been so difficult to keep up with other promotions because they're busy doing their thing.
No, they just don't like Koji Iwamoto as the junior heavyweight champion. Oops.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I'm like, where the fuck this guy come from, and why are they pushing him like so hard, I think he was a DDT guy who just got pushed to the moon. But then again,
when you have your hatred for certain wrestlers, I'm not going to say any names, but...
Well, not just that. I mean, at one point, a good chunk of All Japan's junior heavyweight contention were guys from DDT, like Soma Takagi and Tetsuya Endo, those guys. Hikaru Sato, who now later on joined the roster full-time along with, Koji Iwamoto. And
yeah, there was a lot of guys from, like, DDT that's going into All Japan also. Like your favorite wrestler, Kengo Mashimo.
he wasn't DDT, he was K Dojo. What the heck happened to, it's like he just disappeared. Like, after...
Yeah, I know, he was in All Japan and he was part of the Champions Carnival, but all of a sudden...
And not just that, but he still represented K Dojo. But once K Dojo closed down, like, where are you at, fake Hashimoto? I'm gonna be funny. I'm gonna be frank with you, man. I just this theme song just cracks me up. Who? My version of it?
Can't go Mashimo, yeah. It's just like I don't know.
It sounds like something out of a samurai video game. Like wind, fire, dust. Yo.
Oh man.
I'm just saying. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's like really, okay, I'm gonna stop now. But Rod, we're almost an hour and a half in this episode. I think now we need to. Yeah, I know there's no time limit, but I got to be back up early in the morning. I got to get some sleep in. But you know what? This is not going to be our last episode because I plan on making this a regular thing.
Amen to that.
Yes, I don't care if it's a Russell Roundup. I don't care. I'm all for it because sadly, most of the people who are going to be listening to this episode, this might be our last watch episode for our regulars because they're not wrestling fans. And if they are wrestling fans, they're not big on pro wrestling like we are. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. But it is what it is, right? So,
One day, guys, one day, fellas, I will let you know more about me. At the time of the moment, I'm a busy guy. Like I said, I get excited every time I talk to Mike. I get excited with wrestling. On a personal level, when we talk about personal things, that's a different story. I keep that to myself, and Mike knows that.
yep.
I'm mostly a private person. I haven't been posting a lot of pictures of my family for a long time because, like I said, I'm busy. I'm trying to get things set and ready for my family for the future. I'm planning for the future. But folks, I'm making an announcement right now.
All right, here we go.
One day, I'm going to make time to go visit Mike. I'm going to go to Virginia and we'll do another episode. But like I said, the timing has to be perfect. Right now at the moment, like I said, I'm a busy guy. I'm working. I got things going on with my family. I'm trying to save up some money. You know, I'm going through some life changes also. You know, I'm going back to church again. Trying to be a good family man on top of that. I'm not Ricky Steamboat, but you know the deal. But the thing is about me is that, you know, I've been going through some difficult times too in the past. Like me and Mike, we got close because simple fact that I'm the type of person that would sit down and listen to what he has to vent. You know, any problems that he has, I'll just sit down and listen to that. And that's the type of friend I am. Going back in time, I was talking to a close friend of mine for over 20 years ago. And me and my friend, I'm not going to mention his name because I'm keeping that private. He's been like a brother to me. And the thing that he said to me about me the most was that I accept people for who they are. I'm very good at accepting people. And it's true. He said it. I mean, it just depends on the person. It's like, if we have that respect and understanding, we get to sit down and listen to each other talk. If, say, for example, you need a friend to talk to, I'll sit there and listen. That's just the type of friend I am. Mike told me all his problems in the past of what he went through in his life. It kind of showed me that the type of person Mike is a really good guy. You know, he treats people right. But when you do him wrong, that's when he cuts you off. And it was just like, to me, if you do him wrong, you're doing me wrong also, because Mike's like a brother to me. And to go back to this show, I'm going to make the long story short. Me and Mike met through this group in Facebook called the Wrestling Fan Next Door. And mind you, this group has been there for 7-8 years maximum. But I started talking to Mike 4 or 5 years ago. We started connecting, becoming friends after that. He messaged me. It was funny because you messaged me out of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh, cool." I got a message from one of the guys from the group because I don't really talk to nobody outside besides Sean and Jose at the, with the group. Because I met these guys live in Bridgeport. They live in my area. Really cool guys. We all know that Sean's into politics and Jose's doing his thing as a wrestling fan. He still got the group going. But me and you, Mike, we started a group of our own 2 years ago, and we said, heck with it, let's do it. Ever since then, it's been the greatest experience of my life. I mean, we have wrestlers from Japan, we have independent wrestlers from the States, and like I said, to all the independent wrestlers out there, don't forget, feel free to promote any event that you're involved with, any promotion that you're involved with. Promote. Post anything in there. Get the fans involved. If there's real wrestling fans out there, they'll go out there and see your show. I might not be there most of the time because of work and family. I'm a busy man. But one day I will make time and I will go down to the shows. All you have to do is just let me know, give me a call. I'll pay for my tickets no matter what. And big shout out to those guys out there that are doing their thing. And, you know, it's It's been 6 years. I've been a fan for about 4 of them. I listened to since episode 1 of the Mike Cook Guys podcast show. And like I tell you, this guy has to me one of the top 10 podcasts in the States right now, because it may not be long, it may not be popular, but it's interesting to listen to, because you got to understand, as Mike Cook, the guy, as a person, as a human being, once you get to hear that podcast, that's when you get to know Mike Cook. I knew Mike Cook behind all the podcasts and stuff, and when he was shocked and found out how I was a listener since day 1, I was like, dude, I listened from episode 1 to now. And he was shocked. I was like, I'm a guy that will support a friend. If you're good to me, I'll be good to you, man. As long as there's respect between us, and there's a mutual understanding, and there's love, as a family. And to me, that, that touches people. And it touches me too when I get the same reaction when people give me the same, they say the same thing about me. And people, it's not that hard to respect and love each other, and just do good to each other. That's all that matters. That's what Mike is asking and telling people through his podcast. It's a message of, I'm here for you. You need somebody to talk to, I'm here, but just don't do me wrong. Don't screw me over. That's all I ask. Just don't be disloyal. Mike's a good guy. You befriend him, he'll be your best friend forever. And from my experience of being his friend and get to know his family, it's an amazing experience. I don't know him. I haven't gotten to meet him yet in person. We've been planning on for 3 years, right? I mean, like I said, I've been busy and a lot of things have been coming up. So, if anything, listen to this podcast, and I'm always going to promote it. I always post it on the groups, on my wrestling, our wrestling group, because me and Mike are the admins, or the major admins and founders of Strong Style Pro Wrestling. So, guys, feel free to join the group. But like I said, if you want to troll, make sure you cut a promo. We need to hear promos. If you're a true wrestling fan, cut a promo. That's all I want to hear. No trolling. Cut promos. If you want to troll somewhere else. Because I'll get on top of you about cutting a promo. If you don't cut a promo, I'm not going to delete you from the group. Just cut a promo. That's it. If you think you have wrestling knowledge, you know why, and you want to trash another wrestler and all that, cut a promo. And I just want to enjoy wrestling. That's it. That's what we're here for. So I respect guys. This is the last thing I have to say. I'm cutting it short. Sorry I took talking so long. And Mike, sorry for keeping you up for this time, talking so damn much. But guys, you have a good night, and we'll be having this episode next time.
First off, this is my show. I do the ending credits, not you. But I do appreciate you doing the job for me. But if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. So with that being said, tomorrow night is night 3. Everybody, let's have some real fun, because this is where it's going to go down. Season 6, new episode, On the Edge of a Broken Heart. Literally. So, everyone listening that haven't fell asleep from Rod's long-windedness, that being said, goodbye and good night. Bang!